And welcome to the Total Soccer Show. I am your host, Taylor Rockwell. I am joined today on the phone by Fox Sports' Keith Costigan. Keith is a big Liverpool fan, a born into Liverpool fandom fan, and we discussed their title challenge so far. Keith has thoughts on the quote-unquote slip that they're currently undergoing. And maybe it's not so much of a slip, as well as what they need to do to kind of hang on, win the title, remain competitive there, and remain competitive in the Champions League, which returns next week. We talk a little bit about Liverpool's matchup with Bayern Munich, as well as some of the other fixtures that Keith is looking forward to watching. And then at the very end of the show, we talk U.S. national team, specifically U.S. national team young players, because I did not realize Keith was a scout for U.S. soccer. He talks a little bit about that and his experiences there and some of the players that he interacted with. So it's a free-ranging conversation, although if you're a Liverpool fan, you'll definitely dig it. And if you want Liverpool to lose, then maybe you'll enjoy it as well because you can hear about their vulnerabilities and exploit them that way. So, nothing else from me except to say over to me talking to Keith. With me now, I've got Fox Sports' Keith Costigan. Keith, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Anytime. Delighted to be with you.
Yeah, I think the last time you were on the show was like 2 or 3 years ago when you talked to my co-host Daryl. But now we've got you back on. We wanted to wait until Liverpool were like firmly in the title race before we had you back on, and here we are.
No, it's good. It's a good place to be, despite what some people on the Twitter world might have you believe over the last couple of days.
Do you mean the creeping negativity around their title chances, or do you mean just people who don't like Liverpool very much?
Yeah, well, look, it's... I've been on the outside looking in at the title race for a long time, and if you're not involved, you're hoping that the team that you don't like will fall apart or drop points. So, you're obviously going to have the Manchester United, the Chelsea, the Arsenal fans, sniping. But look, Liverpool fans need to remember they haven't been in many title races, and much better to be in than not in. And they're one of 3 teams, I think, that can win the Premier League this year, and it's going to be an exciting finale.
So I wanted to get to that, but first I wanted to ask about your background with Liverpool. I know you're a supporter, obviously. How far back does that relationship go?
My first memories are of Liverpool when I was 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. I remember, the most vivid memories I have is Ian Rush scoring a hat-trick at Villa Park in the Liverpool yellow jersey. I think that was in 1984. And then I remember sitting down with my dad watching the Champions, or the European Cup final as it was then in 1984 when Phil Neal scored and Liverpool won on penalties against Roma. So, I'm a day one Liverpool fan. Mm-hmm. That's never changed. I was blessed in my early years with titles and a lot of trophies, but that hasn't been the case recently. But hopefully that's about to change over the next few years.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that too, because obviously, as you said, you grew up with the titles. It's been a little bit difficult since then. How exciting has it been to be back in that kind of consideration, in that conversation, and how excited has it been to have that conversation with Jurgen Klopp as your head coach?
It's been good. I get to go back to Liverpool a lot, and I've seen the mood change, the culture change. I had a great relationship with Brendan Rodgers, but when Jurgen came in, there was just something about Jurgen. He got the fans behind the team. He was methodical in his approach in terms of evaluating the squad and then adding pieces year by year. And I think in the past we've seen Liverpool challenge, but you felt like that challenge came out of nowhere. Even in 2009 with Rafa, you never quite felt the team was going to build on that. Mm-hmm. In 2014... same. It was Brendan with a makeshift team, John Flanagan, Ali Sissoko, players that weren't at the very, very top level, helping Liverpool challenge for a title. But this team with Jurgen Klopp, you just get the sense that, like Champions League final last year, you look at the group and you say, this is a group that can challenge, not just this year, but for coming seasons as well.
And that group right now, obviously in the battle for the top spot, and it seems like there's a ton of speculation about, are they panicking? Are they nervous? So they've lost this 7-point lead, whatever. People keep saying that they're behind on goal difference, forgetting that they have a game in hand. I'll also add that. But I'm wondering then, do you feel like there is sort of a pressure because of the lack of titles for so many years? Do you feel like those players feel that? Or is that more of a media construct and the players are sort of just kind of taking it one game at a time?
Well, I think it's a media construct first, mm-hmm. and I think it can definitely play on the players too, for sure. There's no doubt, in my opinion, that when you're in a title race, there's more pressure, whether you're a player, a fan, or anybody else, or you feel more tension than you would if you're, in fourth comfortably and going to qualify for the Champions League. So that goes without saying. But the idea that, Man City lose at Newcastle, they lose to Crystal Palace, they lose to Leicester. These good teams have blips. Liverpool have drawn against Leicester and drawn at West Ham, and I don't see that as a falling apart. I see that as games that you would like them to win, but ultimately I think a point was a fair result in both. So the lead thing was kind of magnified as well. City won, so it was essentially a 4-point lead. If Liverpool win on Saturday, it's a 3-point lead. So City have essentially picked up 1 point over the last 3 match days. So there's going to be so many twists and turns. If you're a fan and you're going to get up and down based on one negative result over the next couple of weeks, you might as well tune into a different sport or find a different hobby, because it's going to be that kind of title race. Tottenham still have to play Liverpool and Man City. Man City still have to play Man United and Liverpool. I mean, there's so many great games ahead. The teams are going to go back and forth at the top of the table. My mantra is that I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy every step of it, and I'm going to be behind my team.
All right. Since you're going to enjoy it, since you're being positive, I'm going to take us in a decidedly negative route and ask, what are some areas you have concerns about that could cause problems? Because we said it's a blip. It seems like it might correct itself, but what are some things that maybe are in the back of your mind as potential problem areas as we get towards the end of the season?
Well, I think some of them are going to be corrected. I think the strength and depth at Liverpool isn't as big as it is at a club like Manchester City. I think Tottenham and Liverpool are kind of in that same boat there. I think, João Matip's come in and he's a very good defender, but Liverpool have looked stronger when Lovren or Joe Gomez has played. They don't have a natural replacement for Trent Alexander-Arnold because they allowed Nathaniel Clyne to leave. So that area in particular is a problem area for me, for Liverpool. They were so strong defensively, but they're still the best defensive record in England. They're not leaking goals, at an alarming rate by any means. But right back is not James Milner's position, and when you have Matip, who hasn't really been playing as the right centre back, that area of the field is a little bit of a concern for me. The other area would be someone coming off the bench who gives you a lift in that final third, because I think Sturridge started the season well, but he last couple of times he's come on, he hasn't looked like being a goal scoring threat for me. And Origi, he did well when he came on against West Ham, but traditionally he hasn't been a very prolific goal scorer. So those are the two areas. But having said that's really nitpicking. I could do that for each one of the teams in the title race. And I think if you what's the old saying? If you bring all your problems to the table and listen to everyone else's, you'd probably end up taking your own problems away. So yeah. I think that's the way for Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp right now.
All right. I did want to stick with one issue there, which was the Trent Alexander-Arnold one. How long is he expected to be out, and what would you like to see them do while he isn't able to play?
Well, the expectation is he's back tomorrow. The interesting thing for me is Fabinho plays right back for his national team. He's the Brazilian right back. So, he stays central midfield. Milner goes to right back. I wouldn't have been surprised on Monday if Fabinho started at right back if everybody was fit. Unfortunately, Henderson and Wijnaldum went down late with injuries. So I think, whether Milner stays in that role, if Trent, does go down again, I'm not so sure. But look, let's all keep our fingers crossed that Trent plays. If he does, Liverpool are a much better team on that side.
I mean, I'm a United fan, so I will not keep my fingers crossed, but I understand that there are people out there who would like to do that with you. So that's fine if you want to do that. And since we've talked the negative, let's talk if you do have those moments of oh no, what are we going to do if Matip gets injured or something like that? What are the moments that make you calmer? What are the things that make you happy about Liverpool right now, aside from the fact that you're in that title race?
One defeat in 25 league games is pretty incredible.
That's decent.
Yeah. No, I think that the way the team plays, I think any team goes this route. You kind of go through one player is scoring goals, and then if he drops off, another. Salah's been sensational this season. Last couple of games he hasn't scored, but Mane has picked up that mantle when either of those hasn't been on form. Firmino. So I think Liverpool have a good balance in that regard. I think they play an attacking brand of football, which is so important for me, for Liverpool fans, to take the game to the opposition. So all of those things make it exciting for me. I think if Liverpool don't win the title, it won't be because we sat back and defended and tried to hold on. It will, we'll go out, we'll take teams on, and if we fall short, you know what, we'll have given it our best shot. So in that regard, that's what makes me feel, confident that I'm going to enjoy this race. And I may be biting my nails on the final match day of the season, but until then, I'm certainly going to enjoy it.
I wanted to ask you one more thing about the title race. I was reading Eni Aluko today for The Guardian, or maybe it was yesterday. She was making a point that it might be easier to be the one chasing the top spot rather than being the one sitting on top spot, because when you're in that first place, there's a lot of animosity. You're the number one team. Everybody wants to beat you. Nobody wants to see you win. But when you're number two, there's a little bit more of that underdog. You're challenging, trying to get to that spot. What do you make of that argument? Do you think that's maybe sort of trying to look at it through a silver lining, or do you think there's something to it?
No, I think it's the most bizarre argument that we always hear. It's like one of those cliched arguments, oh, you're better off being second. Well, hang on, who has more points? You're better off having more points after every match day. That's always going to be the team in the better position. So for me, City went top in midweek. Mm-hmm. Liverpool have the chance to take that back over if they beat Bournemouth, and I want Liverpool in first position. If I had my way, they'd be 10 points clear, and we wouldn't be worried about anything. But the reality it is, if someone told me with 5 games to go, Liverpool could be 3 points clear or 3 points behind, I think if we could do a poll, I think we would have 100% saying you'd rather be ahead.
Much more from Keith and a little more from me in just a moment. But first, I wanted to let you know that today's episode of the Total Soccer Show is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club has everything you need to look, feel, and smell your best. And you never have to go to the store. They send it right to you, which I do appreciate. I also appreciate how much they have made me want to shave. I'm not going to. I still got the beard. But they've got the shave butter, the shave lather, the prep scrub, the post-shave cream. It all is great. It smells great. Works great. But the biggest thing for me is that because I have sensitive skin, so I tend to get the little red bumps, especially around my neck. That's why I grew the beard. But the post-shave cream really helps with that. It helps with the shave irritation, and I like that a lot. So, too, does all the prep scrub and the shave butter and the lather. It really makes it nice and clean and easy to shave. It all smells good, too. You can use that in lieu of cologne if you go with the shampoo face wash route. Your face and hair and beard will smell good. Or if you don't have a beard, it means you've used their shave stuff, and then it all works, too. So if you want to check out what they've got on offer, they've got a bunch of starter sets you can try for just $5. Like their oral care kit. I didn't mention that. I still love that toothbrush. Fits right in the mouth. It's ergonomic or perfectly designed for your mouth. Works great. After that, the Restock box ships regular size products at a regular price. So what are you waiting for? Seriously, what are you waiting for? Go to dollarshaveclub.com. Get your starter set for just $5 right now at dollarshaveclub.com/TSS. That's dollarshaveclub.com/TSS. Thank you to Dollar Shave Club for helping me shave and for sponsoring today's show. Now back to Keith. As you mentioned, you've got Bournemouth at home this weekend. You did there is that little bit of a blip, the 2 draws in a row. What are you hoping to see from the outset, from kickoff, that will kind of make you feel at ease, make you feel okay, this is going to go the way I expect it to go?
Well, I think we'll see Liverpool on the front foot. We saw that against Leicester. Even in that game, Liverpool scored early, could have had a couple more. But what I don't want to see is not necessarily from the start. I want to see all the way through. I want to see the fans get behind the team. If it's 0-0, if Liverpool don't score, Bournemouth are a very good team. If you don't score, you just keep going. You get behind the team, you support the team. You don't want that nervousness from fans sometimes creeping onto the field. So for me, it's I expect a fast start from Liverpool. What I want to see is if they don't score, if they concede, you just keep going and playing the way that you've played all season. That has seen you lose just one game in the Premier League. I think it's not a coincidence. I actually said after about 8 or 9 games, somebody said to me, Liverpool are in the title race. And I said, come tell me that after 25 games. Mm-hmm. We're at 25 games now. They are in the title race. And I want to see Liverpool continue to do what put them in this position. And I've no doubt they will. Jurgen Klopp is not someone that, having been around them, watch his sessions, he's not someone that's, going to panic in terms of style of play or anything like that. So I just want Liverpool to continue doing what they've done. And I think they'll be, like I said, there or thereabouts at the end of the season.
But if, as you alluded to earlier, like if those nerves from the crowd do start creeping onto the field, how do you, like, I'm assuming you've been there when those moments have happened, when those moments of anxiety start to filter through. How would you, if you're Jurgen Klopp, for example, or the players, like, how do you respond to that? How do you stop that from happening? And I know I'm asking you a managerial question, but I believe I read that you have your UEFA A license, so I feel like you can handle it.
Yeah, look, it's tough because, you got to remember Liverpool players, or Liverpool as a club, haven't won the Premier League title, the top division title, since 1990. So whatever about the players, the fans haven't been in this position either. And one of the big things is the fans. If you haven't been in this position, you kind of don't know how to react as it's a new generation of fans. So I think one of the things that can happen is Liverpool taking control of the game early, being a goal or two up. All of a sudden that calms the nerves of the fans. But I think that's what the players can do. For the fans, like I said, if it isn't going well, they have to understand they do play a part. Jurgen Klopp had a press conference today, and he talked about the powers of the fans. So, Liverpool playing Dortmund is a great example in the Europa League a few years ago, where they were down and out, and kind of like your point where you said being in second place sometimes is better. This is where I think that argument plays true, where Liverpool were behind to Dortmund and the fans said, you know what, we're just going to go all out and go for it. And they got behind the team and they played a part in Liverpool coming back. So I think that can happen in a game. Mm-hmm. But if you're not ahead, if it's 0-0, don't get nervous. Just still cheer, get behind the team, support, and you're going to play your part in what should be a very, very good ending to the campaign.
And are you planning to be at any games at Anfield for the remainder of the season?
Yes, the plan is there. I got to go back for the Newcastle win, the Arsenal win, and I was at Man City as well for the loss. So I will be there. I haven't decided which ones yet. Obviously, my commitments with Fox will dictate, when I'm able to travel and such. But the plan is definitely to be at Anfield a couple more times this season and enjoy hopefully a couple of big wins.
And I'm sure you wouldn't mind sitting down with Jurgen Klopp. I believe you've done that in the past, correct?
Yeah. I've sat with Jurgen a number of times. It's always a pleasure. Jurgen's, someone that is great. He speaks from the heart. It's someone that's very genuine when he's talking to you. And a lot of people are like that in the soccer world anyway. But he's always enjoyable to sit and chat with, and he always gives good perspective on things where you go, okay, that makes sense.
It occurs to me now that I've asked you if you've sat down with him. I believe your Twitter background is you sitting down with Jurgen Klopp. So that's good investigative journalism by me. I'm happy I could do that. And that's also interesting to know because I think because of like the kind of sideline persona he has and the intensity he gives in some of those post-match interviews, which are always a little bit contentious, I have this idea that he would be not a difficult interview, but a very intense interview. And you kind of have to be 100% focused the whole time. So it sounds like he's maybe a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more nuanced in the way he approaches those kind of one-on-one situations?
Yeah, well, one of the things I like, look, if you're sitting with an interview, sometimes you can get somebody on a good day or a bad day, and you can tell they're not interested in the question. The answers become short. I have never got that with Jurgen Klopp. The Liverpool press officer is a really good friend of mine, and when he took over, I went in and he said, "Hey, look, Jurgen's great. He'll answer everything you want. He's very in depth. If you feel he's gone on too long, don't be afraid to cut him off. He's not offended." So I was like, wow, you don't normally cut someone off, but he goes very in depth with his answers. If he's sitting with you, it's not kind of like, yeah, it's going to be a tough title race, we're going to fight. He'll go more in depth than that. And as someone sent to interview a manager and get good content, you can't ask for any more than that. And I've seen him the day after Liverpool lost 3-0 at Watford. And they had their Christmas party when he could have been absolutely furious, but he's always been great. He's always given, a real rational, real level approach to the answers the answers to the questions that I give. So he's always someone that I enjoy interviewing.
So Jurgen Klopp, you enjoy. I'm wondering, has there been an interview that was maybe particularly difficult, but that you're very proud of after the fact because you were able to sort of get the short answers into long answers? You were able to get the person talking a bit more?
No, I mean, look, I, for the most part, people are very, gracious with their time. I'll be honest and say, with Jurgen, before the cameras go on, he'll chat with you. When I covered Jose Mourinho once, he wasn't as forthcoming before the cameras went on, so I was kind of a little bit worried, like, wow, he's been really quiet. It doesn't seem like he wants to talk. But then having said that, once the cameras went on, he was incredible, gave great in-depth answers. And, for someone that's done so much in the game, it was great to sit and listen to him as well. So I'd say that was the most nervous I was because he didn't seem like he was in the greatest of moods the day that I was sitting with him. But it turned out well in the end.
So I know this is kind of dependent upon the publication you're working for, but I guess I generally have this idea that there's a little bit of an antagonistic relationship between like managers, players, and the media, particularly in England. I'm wondering, like, is there a little bit more like research that goes into it? Like, if you're from, say, for example, The Sun, like I imagine there's a little bit like, ooh, no, I'm not going to answer that question. Ooh, I'm kind of expecting a difficult interview or just an unfun interview. Versus, will they kind of give you the benefit of the doubt if they either know of your work and appreciate it, or don't know of your work but have heard good things?
Well, that newspaper I won't talk on because it's not, I'm sure you understand with Liverpool.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of local journalists in Liverpool that would have a lot of credibility with the players in the club. Chris Bascom is one that comes to mind. Paul Joyce comes to mind. Melissa Reddy has a great relationship with the club. So these guys are people that I would read that, players understand they're going to give a fair account. Now, there is the newspapers that, they're not looking for the real story. They're looking for the sensationalist story. The player does this or that, or they're not generally the reporters that are there day in, day out. They're generally not football reporters. Mm-hmm. They're guys just looking for clickbait. So I think the players certainly know who they are. They certainly know what publication they work for, and they might be less forthcoming with those publications. But, the guys that I know at Liverpool, Manchester United are the same. They would have the likes of Rob Dawson, who's very, very good. Those guys would be given a little bit more from the players, understanding that these guys are there to write the real story, not the story that just gets the clicks.
So we've talked about the Premier League. We've talked about the interviews. Let's talk Champions League, shall we? It returns next week. I know you all have to wait until I think the week after for Bayern to come to town, or for you to play Bayern. Normally that would seem like a very daunting opponent, an incredibly daunting, I should say. This time just like slightly daunting because they are trailing in the Bundesliga. I'm wondering what you think will be the keys for Liverpool to survive that encounter.
Funny. I was at the Allianz Arena last summer when Liverpool played Bayern in a friendly, and only a friendly, but it was one of those things where you looked at Bayern and they pushed forward, and Liverpool killed them in transition with Salah, with Mane, and I said, I wonder would that happen if they played in a really competitive game. And just covering Bayern this year, they're a team that they have more than 65% possession in every game in the Bundesliga. That's 10% more than anybody else. Absolutely incredible amount of the ball. But they do look vulnerable on the counter-attack. And I think with Liverpool, they are very, very good in transition. Mane, Salah, Firmino, you have players that can get out and run, that can attack spaces. So I'm not quite sure whether Bayern are going to change their approach to that game. They still don't seem to have that mix of, good going forward and balanced defensively that they've had in years past. So, look, it's always daunting when it's Bayern Munich, no doubt about that, because they're an incredible team. But I would agree they're not as strong at both ends of the field as they have been in the past. Zula is the number one centre-back now. Hummels and Boateng are kind of fighting it out to be his partner, and neither have really covered themselves in glory over recent weeks.
And if it is Liverpool kind of sitting back, looking to spring on the counter, for you, like, who do you want being the one to launch that counter attack? Not necessarily be on the end of the pass, but like, who do you think is the most adept for Liverpool at getting the ball under pressure, turning, and playing that pass that kind of launches the counter?
Well, I think for me, one of the candidates for player of the season has been Gini Wijnaldum. Mm-hmm. He started the season where Naby Keita signs, essentially plays his role, and you're saying, well, they've spent over 50 million for a player that plays your position. How are you going to respond? And what Wijnaldum did was the best possible response. He went out in the field, played at a high level, and made it impossible for Jurgen Klopp to leave him out. So I think when he's played in midfield, it's not just springing the pass, but the way he eats up ground on the counter-attack. He's very dynamic in midfield. He covers a lot of space. I think he's a key player. And I also think, sometimes he gets a little bit of stick from fans, but Jordan Henderson is such a massive part of this Liverpool team. When they're countering, his ability to close down spaces, win the ball back, and use it quickly. So I think those two are key players in midfield for Liverpool to have a positive outcome against Bayern Munich.
And then is the assumption that it will be Van Dijk and Matip, given the injuries and the situation at the back line?
Well, the issue is Van Dijk is suspended for the first game.
Yeah, of course. Right. Yikes.
Yeah, and I was actually at the Napoli game, the final game where Liverpool won to stay in it. So that's going to be a test. But look, Lovren and Matip have played together before. But, if you're Bayern Munich, you're seeing that as an opportunity because Liverpool are without their best defender. You're saying, hey, we can go to Anfield and get an away goal. And that's going to be key, I've seen over the last couple of years, Bayern went out to Real Madrid, I felt, a couple of seasons ago, simply because Lewandowski missed one of the legs or was unfit for one of the ties. So that can be enough to swing the momentum in one team's direction. Liverpool have to make sure that they solidify, and that isn't the issue that you would imagine it could be, because it's something that Bayern will certainly look to exploit.
And unless I think the appeal is upheld or overturned or whatever, Liverpool fans, at least you can take solace in that Thomas Muller is also suspended, I believe, for both legs. So at least there's that, although I think if you're kind of weighing those two, Virgil van Dijk probably a little bit more important to Liverpool than Thomas Muller for Bayern Munich right now. Yes,
but the thing is, Serge Gnabry's been playing really well for Bayern Munich, and now he hasn't started the last couple of games in Bundesliga. I think he came on against Stuttgart. I can't quite remember. But when he's on the field, he's very dynamic. And if I'm not mistaken, he played for Hoffenheim last year and gave Liverpool some trouble as well with his direct play. So he's a player that will come in for Muller. Yes, Muller's a loss because he's one of those players that's you could consider the heartbeat of Bayern both on and off the field. But Gnabry's more than able to come in and be a good deputy for him and cause Liverpool problems.
But at the end of the day, if I were making you do a prediction, which I know people hate, are you feeling fairly confident about Liverpool progressing, or is it just too much uncertainty up in the air to really have a clear opinion?
No, I think if you look at the way the seasons have gone, I think Liverpool should go in with confidence. But again, I think it's going to be a tight affair. I think it'll be one goal decides it. I think Liverpool keeping a clean sheet at Anfield is going to be imperative. So if they do that, I think they'll go to the Allianz Arena and score. I'm confident of that. So, I think Liverpool will go through. That's not just the heart speaking. But I think if they do go through, it'll be very tight.
Hey everybody, Taylor cutting in one more time. We're going to talk a little bit more Champions League coming up. Then we're going to get into a little bit of U.S. soccer and some young Americans playing abroad because Keith has experience there. But that makes me feel like it's a good time to tell you about today's sponsor, Roughneck Scarves. Roughneck Scarves are the official scarf provider of USL, of the NCAA, of Major League Soccer, and of U.S. soccer. And that's what I wanted to talk about for a moment because I know for the women's national team, they make individual player scarves. They do not do that for the men's national team. And I feel like they're really missing an opportunity there because I think you should have a Bradley out scarf and then you could have a Bradley in scarf and then those two people could argue using their scarves. I'm trying to think of other good ones that could be used if you were going to go player specific. I think Weston McKennie playing 400 different positions on both sides of the scarf. That would work pretty well. I genuinely think I would buy a scarf that had the Red Baron image on it, so that, and then on the other side maybe Werder Bremen or Josh Sargent's face, because you got the red hair, you got the gingerness, you want it to reflect that, and I feel like we should make that Red Baron nickname work. But other options, you could do a Zach Steffen one with just a brick wall behind. That's what we're all hoping happens. Or maybe for Bobby Wood, you could have him with a Hanover jersey on one side looking sad, and then on the other side a U.S. national team jersey looking slightly less sad, I guess. Maybe that one doesn't work so well. But either way, I think it's a missed opportunity for Roughneck Scarves that I hope they go after. But as I said, you can get national team scarves there. The MLS season is right around the corner. They've got all the MLS clubs available. Women's national team in there, USL, NCAA, many options, including the Total Soccer Show scarf. It remains in there. It's one of the drop-down menu selections, which makes me feel both honored and impressive. And if you wanted to get any of those scarves, you could get 20% off by using the promo code Total Soccer Show, all one word, all uppercase at checkout. So go to roughneckscarves.com. That's RUFFNECK scarves.com and use the promo code Total Soccer Show, all one word, all uppercase to get 20% off. Now, no more ads from me. Let's get back to Keith. Lots of other fixtures, obviously. Are there any other ones that jump out to you, or any other ones that you'll be particularly excited to watch?
Yeah, I think Tottenham Dortmund is just two fun teams that play the right way. I've covered Dortmund. I think the idea of Jadon Sancho going back to England and playing and showcasing his ability, he has been just a breath of fresh air to watch this season. He's so confident on the ball. I spoke to someone within the English setup back home, and they kind of said some people take him as arrogant. It's not. He's just really, really confident in his ability. And I think there was some people at Man City thought he was an arrogant young player because he wanted to play, but he's proven correct. He was ready to play. So him coming back playing against Tottenham, that's going to be really, really fun to watch. And the other one is Paris Saint-Germain against Manchester United, because I think Man United are a team. I've said it that, squad-wise, you could argue they have a better squad than Liverpool. I think they were being restricted. I think, someone's taken the handcuffs off them in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And having seen Paris Saint-Germain against Liverpool this season, I think this is a very winnable tie for Manchester United as well, particularly when you consider that Neymar is not going to be involved. So those are the games that I think are going to be the really fun ones to watch.
And if Solskjaer is able to navigate Man United through that one, what do you think it takes for him to officially be named the United manager, or really stay at top of the list until they finally name him? Is it just kind of keeping everybody alive and maybe finishing fourth, or do you think he's going to have to win silverware?
No, I think it's the way managers are always going to be judged on those big games, aren't they? So it's, over the next, month, he's got Paris Saint-Germain twice. I think that Tottenham game was a massive test. To get a win there was very good. The way he handled, the Arsenal game in the Cup was superb. So, look, he's ticking all the boxes right now. You talk about blips. Man United were 2-0 down to Burnley at home. Mm-hmm. So it happens even to teams in the greatest of form, even if you're not in the title race. And the way the team came back in that one was very, very good. So he's ticked all the boxes for me so far. But yeah, at the end of April, you look back and say, okay, Man United played Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal again in the league, mm-hmm. Chelsea, and Paris Saint-Germain. How did those games go? Because momentum can shift very quickly in this game. If he does well in those games, I think he's put himself in a very good position. The way he handles himself, off the field as well is, I think he's done everything correct. So, not being a Man United fan, I hope he doesn't have a great March and April. but I do think, the way he's handled himself, he's put himself in a good position. If he does well in those games, I think it'll be very hard not to give him the job.
I do want to go back to his predecessor for a moment, because I know you talked about Jose Mourinho earlier, but just with the way things have gone, as you said, it really does feel like Mourinho's gone, things have been kind of handcuffs taken off, and yet Mourinho keeps getting linked with other clubs, and I don't really get it, because it feels as though he was at United, he had all this talent, and it went so poorly that I don't really get why other clubs would look at that and think, yeah, it's Jose Mourinho, but and it didn't really go well there, but I'm sure he'll figure it out. It just feels like maybe he's lost the touch a little bit. But I'm also aware that might be my heart speaking, my Man United fandom speaking. So I'm curious what your kind of expectations are, what your thoughts are on Jose Mourinho now and going forward.
Yeah, I think with anybody, you're looking for trends, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes a forward scores at a great rate and goes to a new club and it doesn't quite work out, and you say, okay, maybe that wasn't the right fit. Let's move on to another club and see if he can get back to form. But this is two clubs in a row now where Jose's left with the players pretty much happy to see him go. So that's alarming for me. The other alarming thing is I kind of give him a break on some of the young players that were at Chelsea that he had to let go in De Bruyne and even Salah coming in. There was this thought that, Jose doesn't know how to get the best out of young players. Well, at that time, he had the top team in England, Chelsea, winning titles. So almost understandable that, they couldn't get in the side. But there now seems to be a bit of a theme, because I don't think he got the best out of Marcus Rashford. I don't think he got the best out of Anthony Martial. And I saw a manager that was going out with a squad better than most teams on a weekly basis, but more afraid to lose than wanting to win. And that's a real concern, not just for the players, but for the fans. And everyone talks about the confidence of Jose Mourinho. I think he comes across as the most insecure manager. Despite all he's done, he doesn't have to keep telling us he's won the titles. We know he's going to go down as one of the great managers over the last, decade and a half. But he can't live on that forever. He's not going to sign a striker because he scored goals 10 years ago. You have to keep doing it. And it just seems to me when he puts a team out there, there's a fear of losing. And if you go out that way, you generally end up losing games. So I think he will get another job because of the resume he has. And if he gets a team to buy into the way he plays and sits back and defends and hits on the counter, he can be very effective. His teams are very difficult to beat. The issue is at a club like Manchester United, they didn't want that anymore. They wanted to go forward. They wanted to be on the front foot. That's the Man United way. Chelsea had grown tired of it. So it's going to be difficult for him now. The next rebirth of Jose Mourinho will have to maybe take into account players want a little bit more going forward from their setup and style. And older managers, it's difficult for them sometimes to change what has got them to be successful, but it'll be interesting to see. But he'll definitely get another job. I imagine he'll end up in Italy. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Inter Milan, his former team. So we'll just have to watch that and see where he ends up.
Two things there. One, that's really interesting because I hadn't thought about the insecurity aspect of it. I knew you're absolutely right that it's always been kind of fueled by having a chip on his shoulder. People don't value him appropriately, and that does really work when you're winning titles and you are the special one. But as soon as that stops happening and you see it through a different lens, you're right. It actually absolutely becomes a more hey, why don't you guys like me? Why don't you give me the credit I deserve? Hey, I won 3 titles 3 years ago, and it's sort of it does take on a different perspective. So that's really interesting to think about. But it's also interesting to think about his next gig. As you said, he's heavily linked with Inter Milan. I have argued before that I feel I know it's not going to happen, but I feel he would be tremendous in Major League Soccer because I think he would be so organized and so defensively, his teams would be so defensively disciplined that it would work really well. But I'm wondering for you, would you enjoy doing the play-by-play commentary? Say somehow, some way he ended up in Seattle as the coach there. Would you enjoy doing play-by-play for Jose Mourinho's Seattle Sounders team?
Well, looking at the job Brian Smets has done over the last couple of years, there's no chance he's getting any look at Seattle. No, look, I've heard this before. I don't buy in that he would be a fit in MLS at all. I don't buy in that he would be. He gets frustrated working with talented young players like Anthony Martial. I can't imagine him being, patient with the number 1 pick from Wake Forest who's never played a professional game before.
True.
Those are issues. Jose's used to working at the very top level. The mentality of players, he wants them to be absolute killers, to be able to deal with criticism. And frankly, some of the young players in MLS find that difficult. They do. So, I don't think he would be a fit. I don't think he'd be a fit playing style-wise. I think people say he would be a fit because, you know what? They would enjoy the name. They would enjoy saying, oh, look, Mourinho's on the line. Let's interview Mourinho after the game. But, would he be a fit stylistically? Would he get the best out of a group of players? No, that's never what Jose's been about. And, I wouldn't see it happening in MLS. So if he wants to do, he could probably name the job and get it. But I don't think it would be a good long-term move for any club to go get him if they're worried about the product on the field. All
right. So all I'm hearing is that you don't want to do the commentary for Jose Mourinho.
I'll commentate on any game.
Okay. I do very much appreciate that. My final question then for you, in talking about younger players, I know you've been in the U.S. for a good long while. I'm wondering, do you get caught up in the enthusiasm about young Americans playing abroad? Because, for me, not the same situation at all, but Daryl, my co-host, English, very much likes Jadon Sancho, is super excited about Jadon Sancho. And while I understand why Jadon Sancho is a very exciting player, I don't have that same level of enthusiasm as Daryl does because I'm not English. I'm not rooting for the English national team. How is it for you when, if you are surrounded by people who are super excited about what Weston McKennie is doing or Christian Pulisic is doing or Josh Sargent or whomever else? Do you feel that same level of enthusiasm, or is it sort of you can understand why people are excited, but you yourself might not quite geek out to that same level?
No, No, I liked it. I like it. I like people, taking a vested interest in young players. I've scouted for U.S. soccer, so part of my job with that was to go out and identify some of the top young players in this country, which I enjoyed doing. Sebastian Soto, who's at Hanover, Ledesma, who's at PSV, players that I thought, hey, these are next level players. Alex Mendez as well. Weston McKennie, I scouted at Dallas Cup a number of years ago, spoke to an English club about him and recommended him. So I enjoy watching these players develop. What I get worried about sometimes is, there's some journalists who enjoy it, but they talk as if the player going there is him making it, and it's not. It's kind of like saying, I don't know what the analogy would be. It's kind of like you got the girl's phone number. Okay, well, you still have to go on the date. You still have to do all of those things. And these players, the door's open for them. They're at the club, but now it's a whole new challenge, and it's generally against 24, 25 other players their age, battling it out for those one or two positions, moving on to the first team. So I get excited with it. I get caught up with it sometimes. But ultimately, you have to understand, for every Jadon Sancho or Christian Pulisic, there's a Junior Flores who goes to Borussia Dortmund and doesn't make the breakthrough. Irvin Pata is a player that I worked with recently. He went to Germany as a kid. Mario Rodriguez went to Kaiserslautern. All names that you don't know, but a lot of players go, a lot more than you would think. It's only a small percentage that make it. But I will say, the more that go, the more that challenge themselves, the more will go through and be at that next level. And that's important for the US to compete on an international level in World Cups and those competitions, because I think you have to be playing against the best week in, week out. I think if you're doing that, you give yourself an opportunity to familiarize yourself with that level, and then you're not as overawed by that big stage. So I mean, long-winded answer to your question. I get excited by it. But also, I'm measured as well. I'm not going to anoint someone the next great player, the next, Eric Wijnaldum, the next Landon Donovan, until they've proven it, over a long period of time.
I do like that. I want that to be the official sign that someone has made it, is Keith Costigan anoints you the next one. Like, there's an actual ceremony. There's some sort of crown. Okay, I'm into that. I can't let you go before I ask you this. What was it about Weston McKennie that you saw that made you recommend him?
Weston's like right now he's been played in a number of different positions, but when I saw him, he was playing in midfield. He was really he was just dominating the game in all areas. He was getting on the ball, the high energy, playing the ball forward, good range of passing, timed his runs to get forward into the area as well. So he was really an all-action midfielder, what you call like a number 8, does a little bit of everything. He doesn't sit. He's not a number 10 who stays forward. He's, box to box, but a lot of quality in possession, out of possession, very aggressive to help defensively. So he was just at that level for me. He was dominating the opposition. And that's what you look for, someone that, stands out in every aspect of the game. He did. The club I mentioned him to is... felt he was a good player as well, but just felt the players in their academy at the time were better. But they always knew that, Weston was going to go to Europe and get his opportunity. And he's done that. Look, he's been played out of position right now to help the team. But, over the next couple of years, I'm excited to see him grow and hopefully get some more playing time in that central midfield position that I saw him breaking through in.
And if he keeps breaking through, and if the rumors are to be believed, if he ends up at Liverpool, does that bring it all full circle? And does that make you like him that much more?
Of course. Well, I like Weston anyway. I went out there and spent some time with him last year at Schalke. He's an incredible young kid. So, there's not much he could do to make me not like him. Maybe score the winner for Manchester United against Liverpool. Maybe something like that would end that relationship for a week or two. But no, look, I wish him all the best, and whatever moves he makes, he's a great kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's got a good agent. So I think the sky's the limit for him, and he's got to continue to work hard to make sure that he fulfills all that potential.
But just don't score against Liverpool.
Exactly.
All right, perfect. All right, well, Keith, I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much. And how can people keep up to date with all that you're up to?
No, just, for me, just keep watching the Bundesliga. We talk about a lot of these young American players. A lot of them are breaking through in the Bundesliga. Josh Sargent's another one. We'll have him at the weekend on Sunday on FS1. So just keep tuning into the Bundesliga. You can follow me on Twitter at Keith Costigan. I like interacting. I like hearing people's opinions. And, that's it.